Hi, and welcome to the Mediatwits number 167. We're back from our summer vacation and talking about two big social giants, Twitter and Facebook. An experiment by Twitter with a trending news tab now on its mobile app. What does that mean for news publishers, and will it bring in more users, more revenues for Twitter? And for Facebook, they've been using native video, which has shown huge growth, but creators have started to have a little bit of a backlash against Facebook for pirated or free-booted videos, and also the way that it counts video views. We'll be talking about Twitter and Facebook today on the Mediatwits. First, a word from our sponsors. Running your own business requires focus, and so does parenting. Mediatwits podcast sponsor NextSpace created a place where parents can give their best quality of attention to both co-working space and childcare space under one roof. Learn more at nextspace.us/nextkids. And hey, podcasting fans, come to MediaShift's Collab Space Workshop in San Francisco on September 12th at KQED with a focus on podcasting and audio innovation. Sponsored by the Donald W. Reynolds Journalism Institute, Collab Space will include improv exercises and keynotes from Steve Henn of Planet Money and Aminatou Sow of Call Your Girlfriend. Learn more at bit.ly/collabsf and register by Friday for early bird rates. So on to the podcast discussion. First, I want to introduce our panel. We have Andrew Lee joining us from American University, Aaron Griffith from Fortune, Lauren Johnson from Adweek, Selena Larson from The Daily Dot, and our producer in LA, Jefferson Yen. So first, let's talk a little bit about Twitter and this news tab. It's an experiment. Not everyone sees it. I guess Alex Kantrowitz at BuzzFeed was lucky enough to actually see it and wrote about it. And it basically just shows headlines. When you go to this tab, it doesn't show any tweets. I guess it has like a number of tweets that are linking to it, but it is just headlines, news headlines, and it's not totally clear exactly how they're choosing these headlines. I guess they're curated some combination of algorithm and human editors. Twitter's not talking about it. They won't come on the show because it's an experiment. Aaron, what's your thought about why Twitter is doing this, what they're trying to gain?
I mean, it feels like it's just another step in them trying to make their product more relevant to everyday people, and less about people having conversations, tweeting about what they had for lunch, and more about making it a daily habit, something that people must use every day. But the problem with that is they're a little bit late to that. Everybody already has their own habits and their own news gathering tools, and some people use Twitter for that. A lot of people use other apps and other services for that. So, I mean, it's interesting, but I'm not sure if Twitter's going to really, this is going to save them and bring lots of people to the app for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been something where you can find news, especially for those of us who've been using it for a number of years. It's just part of our habit for following breaking news, but I think it isn't. There's something about Twitter that's just not easy for people to get into the same way it is with Facebook, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's interesting because Facebook has their own, curated news section too, and it's kind of reminds me. It just feels like they're constantly trying to out-feature each other, and Twitter's jealous of. Facebook's jealous of Twitter because Twitter's really real-time, and so they try to, somehow have some kind of real-time element there, and the fact that they have celebrities as well. Twitter is jealous of Facebook because everybody goes to it every day, and it's sort of a boredom killer. So I don't know. It seems like they're constantly trying to imitate each other.
Yeah, and Facebook, added hashtags and tried to be much more real-time. Andrew, what's your take about Twitter's move into kind of news? It seems like they've also have this Project Lightning where it's going to be something they're going to kind of curate events and breaking news as it happens. It seems like, for the longest time, Twitter just said, we're a platform, whatever happens on it, happens on it. We're not going to get involved. But it seems like now they're going to get a little bit more involved, especially in the kind of curating editorial role.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with Twitter is, as it's gotten bigger, it's gotten more popular, as you as a user keep adding more people and try to get more out of it, the harder it gets to use, right? You get more and more overwhelmed with the content that's there. And the more you think about it, Facebook has been able to react to scale, Google's been able to react to scale, and Twitter has not. And Project Lightning, although we don't know all the details, is, I think, their framework for trying to make sense of this massive stream of live content and trying to cluster and curate it into something that's more usable. And something that really strikes me is that, they're trying to strike this delicate balance of people who expect it to be live and real versus being useful and clustered. And most people have been pushing back on Twitter's, kind of move, saying, no, we still want it to be raw and real. But it kind of reminds me of people who say, I don't want salt in my food. But if you've ever tried food without any salt, it's inedible, right? So it's basically the same thing. And people say, no, we want it live. We don't want you to cut anything out. We want it exactly the way that, it's coming through on the people we follow. But it's not usable that way, right? So if you've ever used Google while logged out, you know exactly what we mean. Like, Google knows that its search experience is much better when it knows a lot about you, and it eliminates a lot of stuff, and it looks through your email and knows more about you, and it gives you those results. You don't want to use Google kind of logged out and without being customized. And Twitter still hasn't found that secret sauce for how to get you clustered, curated stuff. And I think Project Lightning is the start of that, but there's still a lot of work to be done within that framework.
So you're okay if they mess with your feed and start showing you things that they think are important?
Yeah, I think, it's still trying to figure out where it can lie in that delicate space between live, which we know tonight when they're having this presidential debate, Twitter's going to be the place where you want to be, not Facebook. But the rest of the time when it's not doing live, it's not doing award shows, it's not doing live debates, it wants to be relevant, and it's having a tougher time being that.
Yeah. On the Facebook side of things, they had, obviously there's this issue with freebooting, or 75% of its videos that were viewed in the first quarter were not from the source that's basically posting it. So people are obviously grabbing video, posting them. Sometimes even news organizations are doing that. Is this a big problem, Lauren, do you think, for Facebook with the kind of piracy, and what are they going to do about it?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. So Facebook's basically like YouTube's biggest real threat that's really ever come against it. And I think if you just look at the number of pirated videos that have popped up over on Facebook over the past little bit, I mean, Facebook and YouTube are in this massive video war in the advertising space right now. And the creators, the ones who are making stuff on YouTube, are ticked off at Facebook for those pirated clips that are popping up, primarily because they don't make money off of them. If someone watches the clip on YouTube, the ads that run before it, the creators are getting a cut of basically the ad revenue there, and that's not happening on Facebook. So I think it's for good reason that Facebook kind of needs to get it under a little bit more of control, just because if they want advertisers and ad money to follow them, a lot of media buyers know that Facebook's a huge player right now in video. But in order to keep that momentum going, they're going to have to address issues like this, I think.
Yeah, and this was a big kind of diatribe by Hank Green on Medium, theft, lies, and Facebook video, which is maybe a little aggressive, and theft, Facebook, these are the users who are doing it, but the funny thing is, after his whole slam on Facebook, he ends by basically saying, well, it's Facebook, I can't do anything about it. And I think a lot of people feel that way. You can't, what, are you just not going to do video on Facebook, and then you're going to lose out on all those views? So people are kind of stuck. Don't you think, Lauren, when it comes to being on Facebook, you just can't avoid it?
No. I think you're going to see more of it being done, and it'll be interesting to see how Facebook kind of addresses what they count as a view. I think is they're originally, Facebook was big into video because they had this big autoplay feature, and marketers were really excited about that, but that's even come into question. They're tweaking about changing video rates from a cost per impression towards a cost per view model. It's kind of a debate about what constitutes a view nowadays, because marketers aren't that happy about getting charged for an ad the second it pops up in a news feed. So there's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done from their side to iron those kind of things out.
What do you think, Selena, when it comes to Facebook video? Obviously, the thing with views, where they're counting views, I mean, you're going through your Facebook feed, and just basically videos pop up and start playing the moment you cycle through them, and you don't really have a choice. It's just an autoplay. So how does that, and I think Facebook or YouTube, I think used to do that as well, this kind of autoplay thing, and people just didn't really like it. What do you think about that? I mean, is this something that they're going to have to change the way they do it?
Yeah, for sure. So the autoplay feature is definitely an issue, and that I think is obviously what a lot of advertisers love about the video feature, is just because people are sort of forced to see their ads. The other thing, though, too, is that Facebook rewards video very highly. So that's why a lot of people are ripping off stolen content and putting it up on their feeds, is because it'll get shared. It's guaranteed to get placed very high in the news feed because Facebook really rewards putting up video, especially Facebook hosted video. So one of the most interesting things I think about that Hank Green article, and what a lot of people have talked about, is these creators, if they upload their videos from YouTube to Facebook, they get shared less, they get liked less, and they don't see as many views. But Facebook directly rewards people that upload it to Facebook. So I think that's another issue that Facebook should probably tackle, and is in part contributing to why these videos are going so viral. And he mentioned this too, is like there's no way to search for content. Like the search feature isn't super great on Facebook right now, so it's really hard to find and track down contributors that are ripping off stolen content. And until Facebook can somehow either do the same thing like they did with these clickhole or these fake articles that they're labeled as fake, or they're labeled as like this isn't news, it's satire, or whatever, like have a satire tag or have some way of acknowledging content that's much different, that isn't original content, in a way that they're being able to recognize this and let the creators make money off of their content that they're producing. Yeah.
What's your take on this, Aaron, as far as Facebook goes? I mean, they can basically just say, hey, it's our platform. If we want to, highlight Facebook native video versus someone taking a YouTube video and posting it onto Facebook, that's all right. It's our platform. Yeah, I mean, we do whatever we want. Sorry.
That complaint, I think, is so overblown. Like, oh no, Facebook's algorithm favors native video. Well, Facebook favors native video because they think it's a better experience for their users. So I think that complaint is really overblown. I think the problem is, and also the measurement thing, like they can measure however they want. That's definitely something that I feel like YouTube is whispering to all their creators, like, we got to complain about this because Facebook's a threat. That's just a theory that I have. But I mean, I think the point about search is really important, not just because it makes it hard for people to find ripped off videos, but also because if you say like a YouTube star on Facebook, it's really hard for you to find that content. And so I think that if they can make the content easier to surface, like for example, right after Jon Stewart had that really emotional speech about the Charleston shootings, the video wasn't on Facebook yet, but somebody else freebooted it and it showed up in my feed and it had like 20 million views. I think I would have happily have shared the original one, but I just couldn't find it because they didn't put it on Facebook yet. So in a way, this is almost encouraging professional creators to put their content on Facebook so at least they can own it and it can be under their account. I think this was definitely going to change, though. At least the tide or the attitude is going to change amongst creators once Facebook starts paying them, and they're not doing that yet, and they're not really selling a lot of video ads yet. They're just, basically making it a native action on Facebook, and now that they've kind of established that people are watching videos and they like them, they can start selling ads against it. They can start making money, and once those creators start making money, then I think all these complaints are going to sort of like drift away.
Well, that's the issue, right? Is like there's no incentive. Facebook isn't really incentivizing anyone to upload videos natively, and they're rewarding these pages that rip off videos from YouTube because they get massive amounts of views. And it is just based on the newsfeed algorithm. But I mean, if creators are so invested already into the YouTube community right now, it's like there's no reason for me to move to Facebook. So why should I? So I think you're totally right. Like once it starts incentivizing creators, you'll probably start to see less spam because it'll be rewarding those videos that get posted immediately as soon as they're uploaded to YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that who really is making out on all these views is Facebook itself, because a lot of people aren't baking in ads into their videos, which is kind of the way, if you think about kind of the BuzzFeed model where it's native, content, that's basically what you're going to need to do is make your native sponsored content go viral in order to make money, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, They earlier, like last month, they introduced a new sort of ad format that they're going to be rolling out, but I think it's going to be a really slow rollout, and it's basically, sort of almost commercials while you're watching a bunch of videos all at once, and they're kind of splitting the ad revenue between all the videos that were watched in one session.
Okay.
But that functionality, I think, is like still in a really tiny test group, and so first they have to see if people are going to watch multiple videos in a session and then start jamming ads in there, and so yet to be seen whether or not that becomes a moneymaker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that model is interesting, though. Like, I agree that it's going to take a while to play out, but it mirrors so much like an actual linear TV and how TV commercials are sold, bought, watched, everything else. That I think that will be interesting to see how that pans out, because from a media buyer, like, that's what they're looking for. They want to buy, and the same way they do on TV, and there really isn't a ton of, at least like a substantial amount of options out there with digital video for them to do so. So if Facebook can pull it off, I think that could be a potential big revenue boon.
Yeah, if people are willing to sit through commercials on their phone, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people really want something instantly. Andrew, what's your take on what's going on with Facebook? I mean, do you think this is, obviously, it's grab as many views as you can, try to overwhelm the enemy, and then monetize it in some way? Do you think this strategy, I mean, it's kind of hard to count Facebook out of everything. It feels like a lot of things they do we kind of hate and complain about, and then eventually it just becomes our habits, and that's just what we do.
Did acknowledge the fact that Google became big by stealing first and asking questions later. So in that sense, Facebook is following in the footsteps of do first and try to figure out the casualties after the fact. The thing is that Google and I think YouTube have a pretty powerful position right now, given how many makers and folks of this new generation are sitting on YouTube. But there's a huge vulnerability, right, in terms of not being able to do anything other than just browse videos after you watch the video on YouTube, right? There is no real ecosystem beyond just watching and the horrible commenting system. And we already know that Google is going to ditch Google+. I mean, it is a dead product at this point. So there's a huge vacuum there in terms of what do you do after watching the video other than maybe comment or like something. Facebook could come in and really make itself relevant in that area where after watching the video, you can actually do a whole variety of things, whereas right now on YouTube, Google is flailing to try to figure out what to do with the people who coalesce around this video.
Yeah. Selena, and also there's a new thing that Facebook is offering, kind of a live streaming thing. I guess it's kind of like a Meerkat, Periscope type thing, but they limited it just to celebrities, which is a little bizarre, as you wrote. I mean, it seems like a kind of a strange way to go about things.
Yeah, well, I think by giving it to celebrities only, Facebook is missing out on all of the content that sort of made these apps popular in the first place. I mean, if you look at YouTube and Vine and even Instagram, all of the stars, the YouTube stars, the Vine stars, they came up organically in the community. They weren't already, I mean, of course some of them naturally, but for the most part, these people just came up organically by building their own following, by building these really unique original content, and then they began to monetize this, and then they began to gain this celebrity and this notoriety. But by having only videos be live streamed for celebrities, I mean, in a way there is that market, but you're missing out on all the quirkiness, you're missing out on the what's in the fridge, you're missing out on these organically grown, homemade celebrities. And I think once Facebook opens up that live streaming application to a broader audience, and you can target, those makers and those people that sort of want to become these Facebook video celebrities, it'll probably be a little bit more difficult because it's a closed system, so you'll need a page if you want, to really drive virality. But at the same time, once it's opened up to a lot of these people that just organically make this really interesting content, then I think that Facebook will sort of have the opportunity to be more of a video platform instead of just this hosting service for these other videos that exist already.
But don't you think that this is just Facebook, again, like imitating Twitter, basically? That Facebook is jealous that Twitter has all these real celebrities and politicians and kind of people who, when they tweet, they make news, and that doesn't really happen on Facebook. It feels to me like they're just trying to create another version of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's Facebook's move to sort of to monetize that and capitalize on that a little bit. But I also, I mean, but Facebook is just like, you know, they're notorious for copying features from apps all the time in an effort to try and make something possibly work. But yeah, you bring up a great point. Like, I mean, how many reporters were talking about The Rock live streaming yesterday on Facebook? So it definitely, I mean, it is making waves in so much as that it's something to talk about that Facebook's doing.
Well, I just thought it was so funny. Yesterday, I signed on to Facebook and I had this big like alert at the top of my feed. Will Smith responds to divorce rumors, and like I don't like Will Smith, or I don't. There's no reason they would have showed me that, but it was like they were so happy that a celebrity took to Facebook instead of Twitter to announce some personal news that they like had to jam it down everyone's throat. I just thought that was what made me think, oh well, this is why they're starting with celebrities, because they basically want news to happen on Facebook, and it's never been really a place for news.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have against Will Smith?
I'm so happy that he's happy and those rumors are not true.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. Great discussion, and it'll be definitely something. I mean, this kind of Facebook versus Twitter thing, it seems like it's just gone on, and now YouTube versus Facebook. It's almost like there is so much kind of battling going on among the social platforms, and it's something we'll be following for some time to come. I want to thank our guests, Andrew Lee from American University, Aaron Griffith from Fortune, Lauren Johnson from Adweek, Selena Larson from Daily Dot, our producer Jefferson Yen. You can catch us each and every week on the Mediatwits at mediashift.org. We want to thank our sponsor, NextSpace and NextKids. You can learn more about them at nextspace.us/nextkids. And we've got Collab Space San Francisco coming up on September 12th. Audio and podcasting should be a lot of fun. So thanks, everyone, and have a great weekend.